Hey YouTube, it's Domino again. Um, I kind of wanted to do a second part to the video I did yesterday, or put out yesterday. After I had put that video out, anyway, yeah, what I had seen in my going about my own business yesterday, I came across a number of what felt to me like significant signs pointing to a certain lesson of sorts, or a message that I was supposed to put together and uh, decipher in a way. Uh, and so I wanted to kind of talk about those signs and what I feel like they meant. I did use an AI chatbot to kind of help me process these symbols and these signs and come up with a proper. I don't want to use the word narrative, but a proper summary of what it might mean. Or like there wasn't a whole lot of traditional symbolic meaning behind it. As far as what you might find online, you can kind of read between the lines and piece it together yourself and decide what it means to you, if it means anything at all to you. Because whatever opinions you may have about AI, I on some level, I agree with you. It's a useful tool, but it's also, I don't want to use it as a crutch or as outsourcing my intuition in any way. It was just a quick means of trying to come up with what the sign, a message that kind of just combined the signs into a specific idea or concept or um, yeah, just a way to describe what it was I was seeing in a spiritual sense. Um, so the first sign I saw was I was walking to the gas station, which was a one of those. I mean, I'm in California, and there's a lot of gas stations that called Extra Mile, which is I had to walk to probably about a mile or so to get there, which may or may not be synchronistic. I'm not going to put anything any kind of burden on that. It was just it was what it was. Name of the gas station was Extra Mile. It's a Chevron station, and the sign I saw on was the yeah on the parking lot of this gas station. Someone had decided to do some peel and squeal burnouts on the pavement. Circled her like it looked like it may have been a bike, a motorbike. Given the radius of the circles and how it was only one concentric circle, in overlapping rings rather than multiple circles overlapping. Uh, anyway, that struck me as um, what's coming to mind for me is like a vortex, how it swirls around. The AI kind of interpreted it differently, and I didn't like that interpretation, so I'm going to avoid touching on that. But it didn't seem to make sense what the AI was saying with that one. But what I was thinking was of a vortex just now when I was thinking about that is it felt like a vortex energy, uh, like I'm like a certain collective or person is going through that right now, and I personally am myself. So it does kind of fit me in my own life. And I think I have the opinion or the belief or the opinion that all these signs I see do in some way reflect my own experiences and my own healing journey, my own growth process. But conversely, by the same token, we are all mirrors of each other. So, you know, what you put out comes back to you. You know, if you're if you know, you know. I don't need to. I don't feel like I need to explain that concept at all. If you're watching this, you probably watch other people who have explained it much better than I can, or have. But yeah, I believe that as awakened beings, you start to notice the mirroring effect more plainly for what it is, rather than just, you know, something bad happened and then you get into, you know, poor me thinking, you know, victim mode, victim mentality, or whatever, being your own victim, or victim of someone else. So that was the first sign, and the second one, where's my notes at? I'm not gonna read verbatim what the AI said, because, like I said, it's AI, and I don't fully agree with everything it puts out, necessarily. Yeah, the second sign. So I was back in my room. I live in a homeless shelter at the moment, which, you know, whatever, give a shit. Just circumstantial details that I feel like are relevant, but not important, not overly important. I got pausing in. Anyway, so yeah, the second sign I picked up on was that I was back in my room at the shelter, and I felt guided. Like, I have been a few times recently, been feeling guided to go, you know, take a walk down to the nearby Catholic church. And again, as I said in the previous video, I'm not Catholic, I'm not Christian. I have my own opinions of religion and my own thoughts, but I won't start bashing on that here or promoting it in any way, you know. But I felt called to go down there, and the, you know how every Catholic church has a special Our Lady of, you know, whatever, you know, this or that. The one here is Our Lady of the Pillar, and as indicated by the title of the video and the previous title, or the previous video's title, it's Our Lady of the Pillar here. And so going back to that circular pattern of tire tracks on the ground, the AI was trying to suggest that maybe, you know, in conjunction with the pillar symbology, that maybe you feel like or you are spinning your wheels and going in circles, doing the same thing over and over again. And that's kind of how, I mean, from another point of view, that is a similar energy to the vortex, where you're spinning around in a funnel, and you're stuck in a loop, basically, until you get sucked into the middle, and then you get, you know, flushed out, either flushed down or into a new place. You know, not to make it sound negative, like sewage, but like, say there's a pipe, like you get this, you know, a chemistry example. Like say you have this complicated, you know, glass beakers and flasks and tubes set up where liquids are being, you know, channeled in different directions, from one container to another, and it's like that. Like, you have a container that empties from the bottom into a vortex drain, and into the next, you know, container or pathway, you know, piping. Anyway, you get the idea. So that was kind of a double meaning there that kind of resonated. Again, the AI interpretation is, you know, flawed at best, or you know, throw a salt shaker over your shoulder. Don't just throw a little bit of salt, just throw the whole fucking thing over your shoulder with that. But yeah. Anyway, so then I spent a few minutes in there, in there meditating on some things, personal things, and then I went to leave, and I spent another, I don't know, 5-10 minutes out there on the sidewalk next to the church, on the public sidewalk, and was just enjoying the moment, kind of really enjoying the feeling of the air on my skin and blowing through my hair and watching the birds flying around, and they were crows, which is symbolic to me, is significant to me personally. Crows to me are like my spirit guides. In a symbolic way, they represent my spirit guides. Uh, Whereas the wolf symbology is like spiritually uh, part of who I am. That's an aspect of my spiritual identity is the wolf spirit. The not necessarily a pack wolf, but a one that has broken away from the pack and walks alone, you know, capably. Well, I had to pause for a minute. Sorry, I seem to have lost my train of thought during that pause. But get back to I'm trying to get back to where I was at. Um, the crows, yes. Okay. So I was standing there at the corner of this church yard on the sidewalk, and I looked up and I see one crow, just appear and start flying around in circles around me overhead. And then occasionally they'd do some aerobatic, dancing around the air, hovering and checking me out, kind of thing. Uh, it wasn't any kind of aggressive thing. I think they were just curious. Um, and then there was two crows, and then three crows, and then four, and five, all the way up to seven, I believe. 6 or 7 crows, and when I see crows, I always think, crows or birds in flight or birds in general. I always think of the sword suit in tarot. And so I was progressively watching this, 1 through 7 of swords appear over me and start circling me, and each one having its own, each one of those cards symbolically having its own meaning. I looked it up, and I won't go into that because you can look at that yourself and see what it means to you. But it felt like a like a message. It felt like a message within itself, but also a part of the greater message I'm putting out here is that a display of progression through the cycle of the swords journey of tarot, up till you get to we're dealing with the kings and queens and empresses and emperors and such. The major arcana. Um, but yeah, it felt like the universe or spirit telling me, to pay attention to these, 7 cards in particular what they mean, and meditate on those. Um, anyway, sorry about that. Bad camera angle again. Um, and then at one point, also while I was watching these crows, there was a hawk flying over. They started to, 2 or 3 of them broke off and started chasing the hawk and being belligerent like they do, because crows are uh, notoriously were notorious rivals of birds of prey, hawks, eagles, etc. They don't get along for whatever reason. Who knows? Competition, I suppose, for food and resources. Uh, and also, there's also in nature, wolves and crows tend to have a very uh, friendly alliance, a symbiotic alliance on occasion when they're dealing with coyotes, because coyotes are very they're scavengers. They're not hunters. They're scavengers necessarily. They're, they're not necessarily hunters. They're scavengers, and oftentimes they will wait for a wolf pack to get a kill, uh, and then try and steal the dead animal, to eat on. And traditionally, like a lot of times when you see a wolf kill, a wolf pack killing something, or they've killed something, uh, crows will appear and start, taking what they can from the the hunt. I'll use that because it sounds less negative. The prey, and so when coyotes appear, the wolves and the crows get all up in arms about it because hey, we were here first. This is ours. Don't touch it. And the coyote, they'll work together to drive off the coyotes, um, which is in and of itself symbolic of the spiritual journey from my point of view. Like that's I didn't necessarily choose the channel name. Like, it was more. This is a side note. It was the channel name came to me more as an intuitive knowing of what I should call it, and it has kind of stuck with me. And being that I relate to the triple goddess Hecate of witchcraft, the goddess of witchcraft, and crossroads. Crows are a symbol of hers as well. Crossroads and crows. So I pay extra attention to those when I see them, when I see those signs. Anyway, again, I'm off on a tangent here, but something about the Lady of the Pillar Church that stood out to me personally was, like, I've been watching someone who's someone online, they're a tarot reader, watching their readings, and something that occurred to me was to look up the meaning of their last name. And so I did, and this is not me being weird or creepy in any way. I'm still trying to figure out what this means for me, but the meaning of this person's last name literally means pillar. And so it felt like a sign that I don't know, there may be some interpersonal connection there that I'm moving towards or working towards. I don't know. I don't want to put undue burden on what it means. Again, I've been learning to be more cautious in making assumptions about what something does or doesn't mean, and just waiting for it to reveal itself in its own way in due time. But yeah, it was either their first or last name also meant clay, like clay dirt, like foundation, strength. And their other name, I believe it was their first name, meant hawk-like. And I have, again, with crows chasing the hawks and the rivalry, and I don't feel that there's some kind of rivalry between me and this person or anything negative. But symbolically, it was speaking to me, and I've come across I've been seeing a lot of hawk feathers lately. While I'm doing my roadside cleanup work that I'm getting paid for, just to have cash in my pocket, and I've come across a number of hawk feathers over the recent months, and obviously, if you find one, don't pick it up and don't take it home with you. They're illegal to possess, so be mindful of that. Most protected animal species like that have further protections that bar you from having any, possessing, bodily parts of that creature. So if you don't know, look it up and find out. They're very clear about that in the laws, and they will hit you hard for that. So don't do it. Um, anyway, yeah, I've just been seeing a lot of hawk symbolism lately. There's a local company with by the name of Hawk or something other nearby as well, like a lawn crew or construction work kind of thing. And anyway, uh, so then later, after this whole church experience, went down, and I've noticed all that. Oh, yeah, the clay thing, the name meaning, the meaning of the name, the thoughts getting jumbled. The meaning of that name being clay or foundation. Uh, my biological last name also translated like in Hungarian the name Ko translates to stone or foundation. So that kind of was another something I felt like I should pay attention to symbolically, and maybe like I feel like there have been a lot of signs pointing me in a certain direction lately. Firstly, that for the past 2 or 3 years I've been called to go back to Kauai, where I had endured some I don't want to put a dark, pitiful me vibe to this, but it wasn't a great time. It was meant to be a vacation, a family vacation, and I was my vacation, as it were, was ruined by family members being just controlling and overprotective and domineering and anyway. So I anyway, yeah, I feel like the universe is kind of pointing me in a certain direction, and so with all these signs appearing all of a sudden, and the synchronicities being so overtly obvious to me, uh, I'm just I'm not trying to rush into anything. I'm not trying to force anything to be a certain way. I'm learning I'm learning that I need to. It's been a long process of learning how to let go and just enjoy the ride, as it were. And so the bottom line, I guess, I'm trying to make here is that in my journey here, my healing journey, I I feel like in a lot of ways I have turned a corner in my life recently, and things are only going to get better from here. It's been a hard road, and it's been dark at times, and painful in so many ways, but um, like even the cigarettes, I've been working on, I've been for a long time I've been wanting to quit, and recently this person just out of the blue one day decided that they were trying to quit, or put it out there that they were trying to quit, and that in and of itself, I don't want to say I'm not trying to put the burden of my detox process on them. It's not like that. seeing that they were going through it too gave me a boost of encouragement in a way, and like it gave me the push I needed to believe that I could do it for myself, and if there's some greater reason for this, or how do they put it? This magnetic pull towards this other person. I don't, and again, I don't know if there's meant to be, if there's something for me to learn or acquire, like spiritually speaking, acquire there in some way, or if it's just two wayfaring strangers, and the hummingbird. I don't know if y'all saw that. I hope you did. But yeah, anyway, I don't know if this magnetic attraction I'm feeling towards this person is romantic or platonic or like a soulmate thing, a brief encounter, or like a long, either a brief encounter with someone meant to in some way to guide me, intentionally or unintentionally, or if there's a greater reason for their appearance in my sphere of experience here, my sphere of existence. Yeah, I feel honestly a lot more calm today than I did yesterday, or have recently. I've been feeling a lot of energy, you know, good and bad coming at me recently, and it's been throwing me off balance, and I've been having to like really sit with that and figure out where it was coming from, and what part of it was mine or not. And I've noticed I've gotten better at that, as time goes on. I keep encountering this same test of my boundaries, of my awareness, to the point where I feel like I don't think I'm fully past the cycle yet. I think it might come back around another time or two, but I'm starting to see that I've spent so much time, putting my intentions, my desires outward onto other things or other people or other circumstances or situations, and not realizing that whether I'm consciously aware of it or not, I'm creating the problems that I'm experiencing, so that I can see it for what it is. And if this is just another one of those cycles, then I'm learning to tread very lightly on unstable or uncertain ground, until I am sure that it's got a solid foundation beneath it. I think that's kind of the point of the message I've been receiving, is to, with the pillar. The AI was like, this is your center. Where is your core center of your being? You're not in the physical sense, but in that, not just in the physical sense, but in every way. Where is your center? Find that. And if you feel like you're going around in circles and not progressing, not moving forward, find your center, find the pillar, and then stay there while you navigate. Move with the pillar. Don't try to move. Don't try to move the pillar. Move with it. Where it goes, you go. Now, what is that Ludacris song? When I move, you move. Just like that. And suddenly what is it, the High Priestess card is coming to mind with the two pillars, the black and white pillars. With what is it? What is it? There's letters described on one of them J. I think the other one might be a B or a P. I don't. No, I don't quote me. Like, look at the card and you'll find out for yourself. And I'm not sure what those letters, stand for or symbolically in that context. But I think J is actually blessings and justice comes to mind, or judgment comes to mind. Uh, I think that might be it. Again, don't quote me. I'm not sure, but that's what's coming to mind is blessings and judgment or justice. Uh, um, but yeah, I think that was kind of the message I was getting was uh, find your center, and if you feel like you're being tossed around in a vortex or in a shitstorm of energy, return to yourself before trying to find anything or anyone else outside of you. The pillar strikes me as a like a lighthouse, uh, in a way. Like I'm seeing a light, uh, and then the light gives me the image of the lighthouse, and the pillar being the structure that holds that light as it moves around the structure, in all directions. Illuminates every direction so you can see what's out there, or so that or rather that whoever's out there can find you, in the storm, the chaos and uncertainty of the storm, on the ocean or in the ocean. Uh, and I think that's kind of what I'm supposed to be doing here is to be that lighthouse for others, in whatever way I'm guided to do. Um, and if that includes attracting a life partner, a fellow traveler, a seeker, to walk with. And I've said that before many times. It's something that came to me recently was that I don't want a wife or a spouse. I want a partner. I want someone. I want a fellow traveler whose path runs parallel to mine. And if they separate and diverge, or if they cross or whatever, then that's fine. I accept that as long as our paths are, uh, if my path runs parallel and travels alongside another person's path, then I will walk that road with them, gladly, and it will be a privilege and an honor and a beautiful responsibility. I'm not much to look at. I have my issues. I look like 100 miles of bad road. And I know I get it. But I think that's the point. Is that even the lowliest creatures, even the lowliest of humanity, who've been, as I've said, one of my little uh, idioms I use a lot is kicked to the curb and stomped on, and I'm there right now, and I mean I'm doing reasonably well with myself in that regard. I have all the resources I need to slowly and gradually, put my life on the path that it's meant to be on, or to move in that direction. I'm gesturing, but you can't see me. Move in that direction. But uh, yeah, I just I think as far as like the the nature of the content I'm supposed to be making. It's like I spend a lot of time watching tarot videos and channeling messages and from various different people, and admittedly I get a little caught up in the excitement of it, and it drives me a little bit cuckoo. A little bit I get a little nutty. I'll just say that. And that's on me, but. Um, I'm such an open channel all the time that that I'm still working on learning how to moderate that. In online conversational parlance, I have to be my own moderator of what energies I'm putting out and what I'm receiving, because it's not all good. Both ways, it's not all good. There are certain patterns I've recognized that I'll start doing something in a certain way or saying something, and then I'll come back. Like I'll post something online. Well, that was interesting. Yellow might mean something to you guys, and slingshots. Some guy just walked past me with wearing a yellow shirt and flipping off rocks from his launching off rocks with a slingshot. Those little wrist fire things. Like what is the daisy gun slingshot, wrist slingshots. Those are pretty fun, but yeah, so that might be something for you. Anyway, but back to what I was saying. Yeah, I've had to really look at certain behavioral patterns that I'll be posting something online, either like a comment or in the case, like if I'm watching somebody else's videos and I'm in their chat box, the chat comments section, and I'll post something, and then it'll feel okay that it's not gonna be perceived a certain way in any kind of negative way. And then I'll sit there and really think about that all day long. And was that the right decision? Was that the right thing to say? Did it come out the way I meant it? Is constantly like second guessing myself. Is it good vibes? Is it bad vibes? Am I putting out bad energy here, or am I just feeling that from other people? It's I ain't perfect, and I know I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm a fucking perfectionist. I'm self-confessed serial overachiever and perfectionist. I am my own worst critic. No one can judge me as hard as I've ever judged myself, or ever will. To the point where if someone tries to criticize me, I'm not even listening. I'm not giving a shit. Like, say what you want. I've said worse about myself. I think what you want. I've thought worse of myself. Anything you can say or do or feel about me, I've held it to a astronomically exponential number higher degree than you ever will, than anybody else ever will. Not you specifically, but anybody else. Their judgments, they don't hold a flame to my, they don't hold a candle to my flame of personal self-judgment. I've made a talent of it. It's not a bragging thing to say that, but I've made a talent of being my own worst judge, my own worst critic, and that's something I'm learning to let go of as well. Is to stop judging myself. And this person that I was feeling connected to, energetically or in whatever way, I'm not gonna call them out by name. I think if they were to look up their name and look up the meaning of it, they would understand that I was talking to them. And I hope that there's something in this message that speaks to them in some way. If not, then so much the better. If there's nothing to be gained from it, then best wishes. You're golden. But At any rate, I am excited to see what the future has in store for me personally, and where my path leads. From the point of getting from here to Hawaii, and then where it goes from there. Uh, if if this person and I cross paths, if we don't, you know, I will be blessed either way. It will be a blessing either way because I will know, you know, for a certainty that whether it was meant to happen or not, I will know for a certainty that my path will lead me to the right places and the right times and the right the right um, series of events that lead me from one thing to the next. If this person and I are meant to connect, you know, physically in the material world, then I look forward to that. And if not, then I know that we each will still live our best lives uh, with or without each other, you know, and that's great. Um, and so I'm from that point of view, I'm just learning to quit trying to drive from the back seat, if that makes sense. Driving Miss Daisy coming to mind. You know, mouthy old white lady being snarky and sardonic to the driver. And the driver's just like, just chill, just chill out and let me do my job. You pay me to do this. Let me do my job. And that's kind of the relationship between God and Spirit and the angels and us. Sit in the back seat, just do your own thing, quit fussing, and we'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. It's going to take a minute, but we'll get there. And if when I get to the end of that road, this person that I'm referring to is there, then great. If not, I wish them the best. I only wish for the best for myself, and I only wish for the best for other people. And I'm yeah. I'm finally at a point in my life where like I said, I feel like I've turned a corner recently, and I June and July, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of. I mean, there's some heaviness that's been hitting me hard recently, but I feel like on the whole, things are only getting better for me from here, and they're gonna like. There's some song lyrics that came to mind recently. I was listening to a song recently by Connor Price, and some of the song lyrics is like it was referring to a chart graph, and how to get the axis and the vertex and the horizon, the vertical and horizontal, angles, and then you have the line that goes up, both ways in the middle in the box section, and it's on a diagonal growth. It's rapid upward, upward and forward growth at the same time, and that's where I feel like my life is at. I'm still at the bottom of that line being drawn, or somewhere in the middle, you know. I've not reached the pinnacle or the end point of this part of the journey, but that's how I feel my life is. Uh, Sometimes you go up and then you have to go down a little bit, and you have to go up higher and then you go down. It's stock market, imagery here coming to mind. Uh, the anyway. I don't want to keep rambling too long. That was kind of the gist of my intuitive insight that I was getting is how these symbols all tie together. And I may have missed something. If I do, I'll get back to it later. But the cactus. Yeah, the cactus is another one. After all that church thing went down. I was talking to someone at the shelter, and I stepped back a couple steps, just for whatever reason. I don't know what stirred me to move, but talking to this person while I'm having a cigarette, and I stepped backward and my left calf leg or left leg calf muscle say got stung by the cactus. It didn't hurt. I mean, aside from the brief moment of irritation, but that was kind of telling me to be mindful of where I put my energy, where I step into, what situations I walk into, or where I'm going. That was kind of the hidden message there. I think was, and also protection. Like the spines on a cactus, they exist to protect the plant. Uh, from would be uh, anything that would try and eat it, you know, for whatever. Uh, but yeah, there's other. Let me pull up my notes here. The cactus had a lot to say. Uh, where is it? Cactus. Uh, Symbolically, according to the AI here, symbolically the calf is associated with forward movement, while the left side is often connected with intuition, receptivity, and the inner journey. The cactus, a plant known for resilience and protective boundaries, felt like a sharp reminder to remain aware of where I was placing my energy and attention. It was not a wound that stopped the journey, but a moment that demanded mindfulness. Uh, yeah, so that was kind of what struck me about the cactus was. And I'd seen a tarot reading recently that mentioned you might get stung by a bee, which I don't think was. I think I might have even might have even experienced that one. I'm not sure because there was a slight pain on my side last night. I felt like a sting, but I don't know. I never saw it if it was. But yeah, the bee sting was. Someone had predicted I might that someone out there might get stung by a bee or something. I don't. It may have been a bee. They said bees specifically, but I don't know if how energy works. It could be just a symbol and be pointing to something else entirely. But anyway, uh, so yeah, that's kind of what I've got today. I'm gonna cut it here, and I will talk to y'all later. I love you. Um, yeah, don't be a Grinch.